webinar
This meeting is being recorded.
training this year, and we're fortunate enough to have Justin Francis from RLH Fire Protection here joining us. We use a lot of our sites in the Bay Area use RLH. They've been very good, very responsive. I've heard nothing but good things. One of my chief engineers actually gave me Justin Francis's contact. We've been talking over the last couple of weeks, and he was nice enough to set the time aside to put this webinar together for us to tell us a little bit more about 5-year fire sprinkler maintenance and some of the things we may run into and what to expect. Justin's a licensed sprinkler fitter, a member of Local 483 in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's been doing this for over 31 years. For the past 8 years, he's been an inspections and service manager, bringing his extensive expertise to fire protection systems for compliance. Lifelong resident in the Bay Area. And as you see from the picture that he had, if you looked at it, he's got a hell of a good looking salmon he's holding in front of him. So obviously he likes fishing too. So Justin, thank you so much for joining us today. Maybe you can bring up your PowerPoint and let's take a look through and hear what you have to say. And then we'll leave some time at the end for some questions that people might have. So welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Hello, Bay Area. Like Rick said, this is Justin with RLH Fire Protection. I'm the inspections and service manager in San Francisco Bay Area. We cover the 9 Bay Area counties. Let me get this PowerPoint started for you guys, and then we'll get into it. I'll go through the slides if you have any questions. I'm not sure if you guys want to jump in or wait till the end, but you can help me out while I'm going through it because I had little prep time. Okay.
It's okay.
There we go.
I don't know.
Okay, here's I'm sorry, that made me smile. I'm sorry. Okay, so like we mentioned, this is going to be covering 5-year fire sprinkler inspections. I'm going to run through some information. I know it's one of the more scarier inspections, more costly inspections, and I want to help dispel any myths or answer any questions that might help you guys through it.
Jesse,
it only happens
do you see the screen yet, though? I'm sorry, Jesse. Do you see the?
Say that again.
The PowerPoint.
I do, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so able to view his screen.
Go ahead.
You see this with my mouse? You're able to see it? You're good?
We got it, Justin. We're good.
All right. Okay. So, all right. So, real quick. What is a 5-year inspection? So basically, a 5-year inspection is every 5th annual fire department makes you do a 5-year inspection on your building. It's a deep dive. It includes testing, inspection, and maintenance of your fire sprinkler system. Whereas the quarterly inspection is just a quick visual of the riser only. The annual is a visual of the building systems and a little bit of testing. The 5-year incorporates the quarterly, the annual, and then includes a bunch of additional requirements that only happen on the 5th year. It is a code standard governed by NFPA 25, California edition. There are 2 editions of NFPA 25, one national and one for California alone, which is more stringent. So we here have to adhere to the NFPA 25 California edition. 2013. It hasn't been updated since 2013, or hasn't changed since 2013. So we use the 2013 California edition. And basically, this inspection is to ensure that your fire sprinkler system is going to perform and your building doesn't burn down as bad or as much. People don't get hurt. Okay. This is just a picture of the 2 code books. You have the national and the blue, which the nation goes by. California, the red 2013 edition, is what you guys will be concerned with, and it has more frequent testing intervals. It has more in-depth testing and more stringent requirements. Here is a list of the reports that are generated from all inspections, but these are the reports that you would have on file, the AES forms that the fire department asks from you periodically. And this is a list of all of them. You have the sprinkler system ones, you have the wet sprinkler system quarterly and annuals. These are ASC 2 and 1. You have the dry pipes, the pre-accident deluge, dam pipes, your fire pump annuals and weekly and monthly runs, and then the other forms. But these are the basic 10 forms that comprise all of the 2025 inspections for your fire sprinkler systems in your buildings.
And Justin, most buildings that you're going to, are you going to quarterly? You doing quarterly, semi-annual, and annual, or what are you doing? I know we're mainly talking about 5-year fire inspection, but on a given high rise downtown, do you see yourself going there quarterly?
Yeah. So basically, I talk to the customer. It's up to what the customer needs. It's up to their comfortability of how much liability they want in terms of, so a quarterly, so we sell and do everything. But I sit down with the customer and see what they need. For instance, the one thing about a quarterly is that it's the one inspection that doesn't have to be done by a contractor. So the building can do their own quarterly. The customers can do their own quarterly with a competent person. When it comes to the annual and the 5-year, you need a licensed contractor. So some buildings opt to do the quarterlies themselves. And some opt to have us do it.
Is that what you're saying? It's more of a visual to make sure the valves are open?
Yes, the quarterly inspection is actually very simple. It's just a visual of the riser only. So you're just looking at the riser, which comprises the control valve, the gauges. You're looking at the FDC out front. You're checking the spare head box. It's real simple, quick stuff. You're just making, the main thing is we're making sure that the valves are open and not shut. You're making sure there's pressure on the gauges, making sure you got a couple spare heads in the head box, and making sure your FTC is not broken. And that's a quarterly, and anybody could do that. Or if you don't want the liability of that, you can contract it out. But so the quarterly is just that. It's just quick visual.
And if anybody does it, they probably want to make sure that they're marking it down, have a document page that they're saving somewhere that they did it. But if they wanted to, they can reach out to you guys and do that. That's great information. Just want to ask that question.
Yeah. Well, regardless, you would have to fill it out on the AES form. So you need the AES quarterly form to fill it out. And some people don't know where to find it. If I have no problem sharing that with the customer if I'm working with them. If they don't have a need for me to do the quarterly but they want the annual, I have no problem helping them out with the paperwork and getting them the paperwork they need so they could do their stuff. Or I can do it for them, either way.
I love it. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So then, and then like you're saying, so where did we leave off? So yeah, basically you got the quarterlies and we'll do quarterlies and then we'll come every 3 months and do that quick visual inspection of the riser. And then annually, it's more in depth. We got to see every square inch of the sprinkler system, every sprinkler head, go into every unit, closet, bathroom, and look at every sprinkler head. So it's more in depth. And that's where you need a contractor because you do some maintenance and testing on the valves. You do some flows on the drains. So that's where you definitely need a licensed contractor when you get to the annual. Same thing with fire pumps. Fire pumps, if the building has an L license, their engineers can do their own pump runs. So we have some buildings that don't have the L license, so they contract us to their monthly and weekly fire pump runs. Same thing, you need the paperwork, and I have that paperwork if needed, if any of the engineers need that paperwork, so they can fill it out themselves and turn it in if you guys have the L license.
And that's a really good point to bring up, actually, because I just ran into this the other day where some buildings, some managers don't know that the building does need to have an L license in order for their engineers to do the testing. And certainly you can get, because the RLH, you guys do fire pump runs, right? That could be part of your service.
100%, yeah.
Right. But if you wanted to, and you had engineers and you wanted them to do it, as long as the engineer has a fire pump certificate and the building has that specific L license, you guys can do it in-house. But again, Justin can do that with RLH also if you want to do that for a cost. Sorry to cut you off, Justin.
Yeah, no, I think, you're right. I mean, I believe that the L license has to go through the building itself. So you have to have a combination of the building having the L license for the property, and then you need the engineer to be licensed to, or certified to run the pump. So if you have them two things, you can do your own pump runs. You can do them in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one myth. So one thing that we get into, I don't know, can you guys see my mouse, or can you at all scrolling?
Yeah, we can.
Over this. Okay, so one common misconception or thing we always run into is we don't sell anybody standpipe quarterlies or semi-annuals. But it's not a common thing to do in California. There is a report for it, and from time to time you'll get a new inspector in the fire department doesn't understand this, and he'll jam you up for a standpipe quarterly or a standpipe semi-annual. A lot of times they'll tell you that you have to have it. I get all kinds of engineers calling me and saying they never heard of this, and then I end up having to talk to the fire inspector, and then they lay off them. So just know that it's not normal to do a quarterly standpipe or a semi-annual. And if they're asking you, you probably could get out of it by just getting on the email with the contractor and letting them explain it. We don't normally do those. And worst case, we've had some inspectors that force the building to do a semi-annual or a quarterly, and then we'll do that for them to get it out of their hair.
Okay.
But generally, it's just annual standpipe, and then quarterly annual sprinkler system. But anyways, I digress. Moving on. So you can keep this. This sheet is a good. This slide's a good slide just to show you the AES, because the fire department will talk about them in terms of AES forms. They won't tell you need your sprinkler form or your standpipe. They'll say we need your AES 2.9 or your AES 5.2 or something. So
They want that
reference.
specific documentation. Yeah, right.
So yeah, a lot of times they'll refer to it by the number of the AES number. And so I get people calling me all the time, engineers, and they're asking for the AES whatever, and I have to look back at this to remember what it was. Moving on. Okay, so the next couple slides I'll go back and forth through. It's one of the reports. It's a standpipe report. It happens to be let me see what it is. It happens to be my computer don't want to go back and forth. Well, anyways, just every report comes with the AES 1, which is just a cover sheet. So every report has a cover sheet. That's the AES 1. Then behind it, you'll have whichever report it is, a wet sprinkler, a pre-action, a deluge, a pump, and then AES 10, 9 and 10 are the corrective actions and deficiency comments. Let me see if I'll go forward now. So here's a cover sheet right here, the AES 1. You can find the AES number down at the bottom corner, tell you what form it is. This is just a cover sheet. It's a standard cover sheet for all reports. Like I was saying, this is a standpipe 5-year report. You can tell what system it's for up here and what inspection it is, and also your AES number down here. And okay, so this is the let's see, I want to go back. There's page 1 of 4. There's 4 pages in the standpipe report. You got the cover, and then you got the 4 pages in the standpipe report. And I'm trying to skip it, it's lagging a little bit. So I'll talk about it some more. So basically, on each page, you have, if you'll see right here, you have ITM for inspection, testing, and maintenance. All these items that are labeled I are inspection portions of your report. It's visual only. All the I's are visual only. The T's are, when you see a T in this column, it's a test item, and an M, it's a maintenance item. So this column tells you if it's a visual, a test item, or a maintenance item. This thing's not letting me skip forward.
Did you have a question? Looks like Lucinda's got her hand up. I don't know if she had a question.
Oh, yeah. Quick question. When I was thinking about that, just because I just ran into this, when you are sort of giving your 5-year proposal, and like if you have been the sprinkler vendor for the building and you know how old the sprinkler heads are and that kind of stuff, would you ahead of time sort of say like as part of your 5-year and include like sprinkler head change outs for the ones that are over 5 years old that need that you know later will be considered a deficiency on this report? If it's like you know how many kind of need to be changed out, or is that something that you'll mark this as, you know, not just a comment but a deficiency, so you don't pass right away and then come back with the proposal to like repair all of those later?
So it can happen any variety of ways. If we're familiar with the building, I'm sorry. Yeah, if we're familiar with the building, if we know ahead of time, I'll make every effort to tell you ahead of time so that way you can budget for it. If we happen to catch it, the one thing is that the annual inspection is from the ground only. So to get the age of the sprinkler heads, you got to get up close on a ladder. That's what the 5 years for. So generally, we're not doing a close up of the sprinkler heads on the annual. So a lot of times you won't find this as being something that's going to come up until you, unless you're familiar with the building, or if you're doing the 5 year, or you happen to look in the head box and look at the age of the heads. But yeah, if we know ahead of time and we get wind that, hey, your 5 years coming up next year, and we know that you got heads that are within the time frame of needing testing, you might want to budget for testing next year, and this is generally what it'll cost. Also, I've had people call me that just either know that it's coming up, or they are worried that it's coming up, and they'll ask me, or I'll have one of my guys come out and just do a quick walk just to see the situation. And then if there's head testing that's due, we can do a quick job walk and get some information and get you a quote. A lot of times you will get surprised. I mean, you may get surprised on it because, like I said, generally we find it during the 5 years. So we're doing our inspection. And while we're doing our inspection, it will go down as a deficiency. And then when you get your report, it'll say, hey, we noticed you need head testing. And then after the inspection, we'll go back and price out all the head testing and go over options and whatever else we found. But majority of the time it's found during the inspection, and then we'll address it and get you a price after. If we're familiar with the building, if it's brought to our attention, or if we're asked ahead of time, we can help you figure it out before your 5 year if needed.
Hey, Sandra has a question, but Justin, how long do they usually give you if there is a deficiency like that and something comes up? I mean, it's like 30 days, or it depends on what the issue is?
Depends on the severity of the issue. Most issues, though, unless it's like some kind of deficiency that's going to impair your system, the fire department will generally give you 30 days to get it addressed. But you can kick the can down the road a little bit by getting a contractor in, looking at it. As soon as you got a contractor on board, the fire department will work with you, even if you have to extend it a couple times. But if you're not doing anything and you go past the 30 days and you haven't contacted anybody, the fire department starts to get mad. But I have plenty of places that get written up by other people. They get their 30-day notice. They come to us, and then I'll send a letter to the fire department, or the fire department will contact me, and I'll tell them we're working on a contract, or we're doing a survey, and hoping to help them address the situation. Once they got someone helping them, they're a lot more lenient.
Great. Sandra, you got a question?
I do. I kind of want a follow-up question on that. Just wanted to ask, are you referring to the 50-year test on sprinkler heads?
So
or is there like a certain number of years that sprinklers are supposed to be changed out?
So it's a combination of all of them. So there's several different types of sprinkler heads. There's quick response and there's standard response. It pertains to what kind of head it is. There's a general where's that? I don't have it in front of me, but there's a time frame of anything 50 years old needs to be tested regardless of what it is. Once you hit, I believe, 75 years, it's replaced regardless. So you got anything that's 75 to 100 years old, you find something like that, has to be replaced regardless. 50 years old, you can test it still. Below that, there's the more frequent ones are like quick response heads have a 20 year. So they have have to be tested after 20 years. So if you have the quick response sprinkler heads, which are usually, you can identify them by the skinny glass bulb instead of a fat glass bulb, there'd be a skinny
Are
glass
those
bulb.
the R, what are those, are those the RSFRs, or what do they call that?
Yeah, they're like, I mean, different manufacturers will have different names. They could be quick response, they could be fast response, they could be, there's a couple other names, but basically they refer to quick response heads. And those ones are a newer invention per se. So they deem that they have to be tested after 20 years in service because they don't have historic records supposedly. So basically, if you have anything 20, we're 26. So you have anything 2005, 2006-ish, they would need to be tested for those type of heads.
Basically just it depends on the sprinkler head. And so I was just wondering what situation Lucinda encountered. It was
Oh, sorry. My engineer said it was, I can't remember the age of it, but that they needed to be replaced. And he basically said, we've had this sprinkler company, X amount of years. They should have included this price in the overall 5-year proposal to get all the work done so that we could pass instead of having like a separate, like, oh, here we did the inspection. Oh, you failed because you have deficiencies. And the only deficiency we have is replacing gauges and sprinklers or whatnot. And then,
gotcha.
we have to wait to like come back and like repair it, where it's like, when you came in here, you should have planned to do all of that because you've been here, So it was more of that. But then, sorry, I have a separate follow-up question with that.
We better move.
When you were saying with the 50-year whatever, if you do know, and you said they're still testable, that's just a percent. Like if your whole building has sprinkler heads that are that old, or like the majority of them are, it's a percentage that you have to test to say the rest of them can stay, right?
Right. That's what happened to one of our buildings a couple of years ago. They did a 50-year test.
Instead of replacing all of them, because that gets crazy pricey.
Yeah. Guys, we better move on with the PowerPoint.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the head testing is probably the biggest thing out of the 5-year that everybody has questions on. The one thing I can say is that the one thing that I try to do with the customer is there's options. There's options in the code. Most companies know that they got you over the barrel and they're going to try to test as much as they can or hit you up for replacement. There's actual options in the code book that allow for different ways of testing, different grouping, different areas for testing to mitigate. Because most contractors will quote you to test the building as a whole, and if something fails, we're replacing every head type of that in the whole building. There is room in the code where you can break down different areas for testing and mitigate the impact if something fails, and that's how I try to help people. So I'll try to break down different areas to test and set up different testing areas, so that way if there is a failure, it won't impact the whole building. It'll impact the area we tested, and I'll do several test areas. But like you're saying, that the code is 1%. 4 heads are 1% of heads, whatever's greater. So if you have if it's 400 heads, you would test 4 heads. If it's 600 heads, you do 6 heads. So it's 1% or 4 heads, whatever's greater for the testing. But that can be broken down in different areas. Most people won't give you that option. So back to the report real quick, and you can ask the question if you want to follow up after. No problem. I'll just get through this part real quick. Like I was saying, this is you got your inspecting, test, and maintenance. When you look at your form, you got your inspection portions here, stuff we're looking at. The T's, stuff we're testing. And then M's, actual items we're maintaining, the FTC backflush, internal pipe inspection, and whatnot. And then here you have deficiencies and so forth. And let me see, and this is the deficiency page for more deficiencies. It's on your report. This is where you're going to find any D's for items that need to be addressed or comments for any items we find. Deficiencies are a fail. So if you have anything checked in a D column, that's a fail for the report. If it's in the C column, that can still pass. It's just a comment. So anything in the D column is a fail, and we'll will trigger a failed report, and then C is just a comment. I did want to address your question real quick about about trying to help you figure out what you need to do before the 5-year. Generally, if a company has been doing your building for a long time, first of all, they're catching the stuff throughout the years, and it should get less and less and less. They should have a somewhat idea of what might be coming up on the 5 years, so they should be able to help you know if gauges are going to be coming due for testing, if cooler heads and kitchens are going to be coming up due. But sometimes if it's a newer building, yeah, we'll get in there and we won't know until we do the inspection, because that's the point of the inspection. So if it's a newer company, then yeah, your first time might be a little bit of surprise. It might not be able to give you too much heads up because they got to do the inspection to find the stuff out. If you have a company that's been doing your inspections for a while, they should help you plan ahead. Anyways, this one. Okay, key components. So key components of the 5-year are the main things that set it aside from a annual or quarterly is these items here, which are above ceiling inspection. So on the 5-year, we actually pop tile and go into any accessible concealed spaces and look at stuff. That doesn't happen on your annual or your quarterly. So we'll look, behind walls if we can, above ceilings, just to get a look at stuff that hasn't gotten looked at for 5 years. The FTC check valve backflush. So one of the big ones, one of the ones that causes a big impact on your guys' buildings is the FTC backflush. That's the fire department connection in the front of the building. We have to reverse the check valve on it, manually take the check valve out, reverse it, and flow water back through it to make sure there's nothing in the pipes and that the check valve works. And that involves flowing water on your sidewalk in front of your building out of that FTC check. So a lot of times that's got to be weekend work, or we try to schedule first thing in the morning as early as we can. PRV fire hose valve testing. If you got PRV fire hose valves, if you got a stem pipe in your building with the 3-inch or 2.5-inch fire hose valves for fire department use, not the ones with the fire hose, not the small hose valves. These you have to flow test every single one of them on the 5-year. So we have to roll around a tank of water or a tank and catch the water. We have or connect to a gang drain if it's available. But you guys are probably familiar with the 5-year PRV flow testing if you got them, because it's walking around every floor flowing water, and it's a nuisance to your tenants that's pushing around the tank and getting every stairwell and going up and down the elevator. Age-related testing, what you guys were talking about earlier. Age-related testing and replacement impacts your fire hoses. They're due it at 5-year intervals. You can test or replace, but at 5 years, it's either test or replace. Gauges, 5 years, test or replace. On both of those, the fire hoses and the gauges, it's way more economical to replace it than to test it, because A, if you test it and it fails, you're replacing it anyways, and B, it's more labor intensive to test them. So it's either you'll most likely get quotes to just replace fire hoses and gauges. Sprinkler heads, like I was saying, it depends what kind they are and what age they are as to what needs to be tested. Also, your cooler heads, if you have any coolers in your building or freezers with the dry pendants, those have to be tested every 10 years. Tested or replaced every 10 years. And then internal pipe assessment. So while we're doing our maintenance and testing, we look at certain points of the system inside the pipe to make sure you don't have any of the corrosion buildup or the mick or any bacteria growing on the walls inside your pipe that's going to choke down the system, kind of like cholesterol in an artery. But I'm trying to change the slide. It doesn't work for me so much. Sorry. All right, so here's above ceiling. Basically, we'll pop a tile. We're looking at all your pipes or connections, looking for drips, corrosion, anything broken hangers, broken bracing, anything like that above ceiling. This is a version of a FTC backflush. You might not have this FTC on your property. It might be attached to the front of your building, but basically flipping the check valve and flowing water out into the sidewalk. Depending how big your building is, you could have anywhere from 1 to 6 of these that we have to do. And they're labor intensive of taking it apart, flipping the check, draining the whole building, flipping the check, filling it back up, flowing it, draining it again, taking it out, and putting it back in normal service. This is your PRV standpipe fire hose valve testing. So we got to roll around a big tank, connect a hose to it, and flow it with your fire pump on, and catch a reading on the flow meter to make sure it's meeting specs for the building. And we have to do that every single PRV hose valve in the building. So this one gets a little intrusive. Head testing. There's just some samples of heads. You got your quick response. You got dirty fingernails. You got quick response with a skinny glass bulb. You've got the fat glass bulb, which this would fall under that 50-year, the regular standard response head. This one, 2003, this would be due for testing. So if you had these in your building with this date, they'd be over 20 years old, and you would have to test 1% or 4 of these. If one of them fails, you replace, per code, you need to replace all heads represented by that sample group. But like I said, you can get creative with testing though. On your sprinkler head, there's different areas they stamp the dates to see. You can look, your engineers can look at the heads in the head box and find the dates and see when the heads were made, and they can tell if they might be able to tell somewhat if there's going to be head testing coming due, depending on what kind of head it is. There's an older head. Same thing. This is would fall in, like this one would fall under the 50-year. Okay. Here's this is a 90 actually, but this is the corrosion that builds up in pipe, the bacterial corrosion that can get into systems and start calcifying the pipes and choking them down. I mean, this is pretty standard. Everything in San Francisco got some degree of this. Generally, it takes a long time, but we try to look in there and see if it's getting bad and see how see if it's time to start replacing pipe or something like that. Benefits of being proactive. Cost savings, obviously. If you're doing regular quarterly annual inspections, you should be catching small problems before they turn into big problems or weekend problems or Memorial Day problems, because then you're paying double time and stuff like that to get it fixed. So generally, if you have a good program and doing your quarterlies and annuals and your 5 years, you're catching the stuff and it keeps the cost down. Reliability is same thing. If we're maintaining your system quarterly, annually, it'll help ensure that in the event of a fire, you're not going to have a catastrophic loss, and you know, hopefully people won't get hurt, and it'll mitigate fire damage. Water damage, yeah, there's going to be water damage, but asset protection. I mean, by maintaining your system expands the life of the system. So if we're doing our testing and maintenance, I mean, you're going to get more years out of your system, and if we're fixing small problems before they get bigger, it will mitigate large problems down the road. Let me see. Impact on building operations. So generally, talking to you guys when I do these, you know, the big impact is on tenants. For instance, well, just because depending if you have a residential place too, it's a whole different ballgame. But tenants and residents, first of all, I mean, we don't turn off the domestic water. That's never affected in a fire sprinkler inspection, unless you had some weird system that they piped off the domestic water. Access. So basically, when we're doing our annuals in 5 years, we need access to every inch of the building. So it is a large impact on your tenants because we're going through offices, going through the garages, going down the hallways, bathrooms. Fire alarms can be an issue. We don't do fire alarms, so generally there's a different fire alarm contractor. So, I mean, fire alarms going off while we're doing testing. We try to have you guys have your fire alarm guy there so we can mitigate any false alarms or anything while we're doing testing. And then scheduling, it's important to have someone who can help you plan for the scheduling, how long it's going to take. They can kind of lay out what's going to happen when, so you can plan around it. Especially if it's like a 5-year, because you have the visual portion, and you have that backflush portion, you have your internal inspection and portion, and you have your the PRV valve. So when I schedule inspections, I try to tell you, hey, we're going to do visuals on this day through this day, or at least, I mean, tentative schedule you can approve or deny. But yeah, I'll tell you, we're doing visuals this, these days, and then we'd like to come back these days to do the FTC backflush, and then we'll be here these days for this. So let your tenants know. But yeah, I mean, you want to keep your tenants happy. Conclusion and next step. Review records. Basically, if you're selling a building, if you're buying a building, the building has to have a current 5-year on it. So it's good to know when your last 5-year inspection was. There should be either certification stickers, 5-year stickers, annual stickers on your risers that have dates and will tell you when your last 5-year and annual was. If you're missing them, I mean, there should be reports. If you have reports, you can tell from your reports. But a lot of times from the sticker on your riser, you can look at that and it'll tell you the last date of the inspection, the last date of the annual, last date of the 5-year. Schedule assessments. Schedule early and coordinate time and minimal instructions. The more time you have to schedule, the more time I or someone can help you plan ahead with your tenants and make it as least impactful as possible. Documentation. Every inspection should generate a report that you're going to want to keep on hand. Quarterlies aren't so, the fire department's not so worried about quarterlies, but they're getting more, they're starting to inspect more buildings now and requiring the annuals in 5 years. 5 years, they'll give you an annual or a 5-year. They'll write you up if you don't have one currently. And they on the high-rise inspections, they'll come in at prearranged times, but they can also pop in and ask for your documentation if needed. What else we got? And then that's it. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns, or if I want me to clear anything up that I said.
All right. Anybody have any questions out there? Now's the time. That was great, Justin. Thank you so much. It was really informative.
You're welcome. Yeah. So, I mean, in closing, I would just say, if you're not, a couple things. You're not, if you get a big repair quote from somebody from an inspection, you're not tied to them to have to do it. You can shop it around. You could also get a second opinion. It's kind of messed up because when we call stuff out, you have to fix it. So it's good to have a company that is willing to work with you through these inspections and help you navigate them, or the repairs. Sorry. I get a lot of my business comes from companies giving me their quote they got from their last inspector saying, hey, they want me to do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I'll help walk them through it and tell them what is actual necessary, if there's a way they can get around certain items, or prolong certain stuff. So like I said, we know the contractors, and we know that you're kind of up against the wall when you get these repair quotes. So it's good to have someone that you can trust and that you can work with and help navigate it for you. But yeah, if you get a repair quote, they don't have to be the ones that fix it for you. And that's all.
Sandra, it looks like you got a question.
Well, I put a note in the chat, and so I just wanted to point that out. I just wondered if Justin could add to that one particular slide with the key inspection components, if you could add the number of years to that he was talking about. Yeah, that one. He mentioned like every 5 years on one, every 10 years. If you could add the years, number of years, that would be great. Or do that on any other slide where there's like a due date per se.
Yeah. There's I mean, I can, I don't know how I do it right now.
No, not right now. Just like before, like afterwards, and then make the changes, and then you can send it off to BOMA so they can distribute it to everybody.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because there's just a couple different line items that spell out exactly what kind of heads and the frequency. And I can give you that section of code.
Okay, that would
Or
be
I can put it in
awesome.
layman's terms too.
Yeah, that would be
Right.
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And like I said, just know that if you do get hit up for testing or it comes up, that there's options. You don't always have to test the whole building as a whole and face replacing every head in the building. There's room in the code for the customer to specify areas to be tested. So you're not, you have some wiggle room there when it comes to testing in terms of saying what you want tested, where and how much testing you want to do to help mitigate. Because like I said, we have one building that, for instance, there's a building in Oakland where they had to do head testing. I'm generalizing because I don't remember the whole thing, but say there was 24 floors. They had tests. So we found heads that were located in the whole building, throughout the whole building, all 24 floors. They were given quotes to test. The 1% came out to 20 heads or whatever it was. If one of them 20 heads failed, they would be required to replace every single head in the whole building, which was, the quote was over $1 million to replace all the heads. If one failed, if one of those heads failed testing. When I came in, I gave them a quote. I broke it down to multiple floor testing areas. So I tested 1 through 5 as one group, and then 5 to 10 as another group. This cut down the areas to 5 different areas in the building. It was a little more testing up front. It cost more to test the different areas, but they did get a fail. And because of they did multiple testing, multiple floors in different areas that I suggested, they only had to replace the heads on those floors that failed in that test group, not the whole building. So they got out of replacing all the heads in the whole building and just had to do a few floors, which ended up, it was still expensive, but it was it was in the tens of thousands instead of the millions.
Oh, God.
Toby, it looks like you got a question.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Quickly, 2 questions. The first one for the head testing, is that would those be sent out to the UL lab for testing, or how's that done?
Yeah, so we send it. I use Dyne. Dyne is a company. There's two main companies, UL and Dyne.
Okay.
I like Dyne. They give you a report. They give you a card to put up on your riser so you can remember when it was tested. I use Dyne. We come out, we pull a head, we replace it, we package it, send it in a test group, and then they burn it and see how long it takes to pop. And then they let us know. And there's a time frame of how, it has to fully release and it has to be in a certain amount of time frame. And that's considered a fail if it doesn't release, or if it's partial or something like that. So yeah, we would come in, we would if we needed to test a minimum 4 heads, we'd come in, replace 4 heads. I would go look for the nicest heads that I could find. Another place might go look for the grossest heads. But that's another angle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
Cool. Great. Yeah, I didn't know about Dyne. I know UL takes a long time to get the results back, apparently. I think it's 6 weeks. So it's good to know there's an alternative.
Yeah. Dyne takes typically 2 weeks for Dyne.
Okay, wow. Okay, great. Second question was we just went through a sale, 6 months ago, and we had consultants come in and they said, well, where's your 5-year report? I said, here it is. And they said, well, what about your MIC testing, particularly in the parking garage they're interested in? And the report does show it was checked off, but to my knowledge, I don't recall, what would your process be? Do you take representative sections apart to inspect, or how does that work?
No, basically it's if you can also from Dyne, you can get kits to test the water. Generally we're looking in the pipe and seeing if there's some growth in there. We'll let you know. Generally it's like an insurance issue. They'll come back where they want you to test the water and test for MIC. It's not too common. If I was asked to test for MIC, like I said, I go through Dyne and we get a water test kit, and then But if we were on the job when we did our internals and we found something weird growing in your pipe, we might suggest it. But I've never done it. I've never come across a building where we've had to test. I've come across buildings where they've had really bad growth in the pipe, just scaling and stuff, where we will look in and we'll chase it down and replace that pipe. But I mean, there's not really good alternative in terms of like if they do find a mick in your building, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you going to do? I mean,
we added air
nothing you can
gaps.
really
We
do.
did. Yeah. We tested. I think that, we weren't surprised to find there's some bacteria in the pipe. I mean, it's water that lives in the pipe,
Yeah.
and there's oxygen. There's, it's not surprising, right? But is it going to stop your system from working? I don't know. We did like a whole range of different things over the years, from replacing sections to doing ultrasonic tests to check the pipe thicknesses. And we found mostly the corrosion was on the outside of the pipe because it's in a marine environment here. But that's helpful to know, because I don't think our vendor was really doing anything wrong, but we just kind of got put under the microscope by the consultant, and then it kind of, it became an issue with the sale of the building to make sure we had some documentation to say, everything's okay. And then what we ended up doing is adding air gaps in the system to bleed air at the high points of each loop. So yeah, anyways, that's great. And by the way, the presentation was really good.
Well,
Oh wow, that's surprising. It was, on my end, it was horrible. So it was tough.
but listen, everybody,
Yes.
you keep in mind where, like Toby just brought up, there's a sale of a building, there's questions that come up like that. That's what Justin's for. That's when you call him and ask him these questions. I mean, good relationship, get some good information out of it. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
The consultant kind of screwed you guys by suggesting that. I'm like I said, we'll go through it and try and find it, but there's no real mitigation. I mean, I think you can replace the water. They even make these weird fringe systems that introduce chemicals into your system. But realistically, it's about just finding it and eliminating the damage, pretty much. But generally, like I said, it generally comes down to just replacing pipe and try and stay on top of. And that's what the 5-year will do too, though, man. If we're catching it, we can kind of chase it out and get to the bad areas and replace what we can to try and get rid of it.
Any other questions out there? Well, we had some good ones, that's for sure. Justin, I can't think.
I had some. That's the main thing. I just wanted some questions. If there was no questions, I was going to be scared.
Well, I'm sorry I started in the middle of your presentation. We kind of railroaded you there, but no, you had good answers for all of them. And I think that this is being recorded. It's going to be sent out to everybody. And I think everyone's going to have your contacts. So if anybody thinks of something after or later on down the road and wants to reach out to Justin or get a hold of me to get his contact, that you're more than welcome to do so. And Justin, thank you again. And thank you for all the work you're doing in our buildings. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity and the invite to do this. And it was a challenge to do last minute with doing the other stuff I had. So I had a good time doing it, and I had help throwing this PowerPoint. It was a good experience. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
We got one more question there from Nuno. Yeah, or no, that was just a thumbs up. Okay, it was a thumbs up. Good stuff. Well, everybody have a great day. Thank you very much. And we will see you at the next training.
Yeah, be safe and have a good long weekend.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.